Did you know that the UK has a brand new radio station? But not only that, it's the first and only mixed format Christian radio station. But what does that mean? Well, we play the best of Christian music, mixed together with the best of mainstream music, and we have an output like nobody else, completely family friendly for everybody. So download the app, listen to us on smart speaker, or go to our website right now, connectradio.com. Go on, you know you want to.
Join Methodist evangelicals together, a renewal movement which is Bible-based and prayer-focused.
We believe that God is far from finished working in our midst.
We yearn to see the body of Christ built afresh by renewing the Wesleyan mission, because the gospel is too good to keep to ourselves.
By uniting and representing evangelicals at every level of Methodism, we're preparing hearts and communities for fresh evangelistic work, fulfilling the Great Commission to make disciples.
By praying for revival and spiritual renewal, we are imitating the actions of our Wesleyan forebears.
If you have a passion to see the flames of faith rekindled in your community and across these nations,
then we invite you to join us at methodistevangelicals.org.uk.
Life can be difficult when we stand alone, but there is power in togetherness. By standing together with local partners and people in some of the world's most marginalized communities, you are sending a powerful message that communities are not alone in their struggle against poverty and injustice. Change begins when we all work together. Start your regular gift and help change lives today.
Over the last year, a lot has changed.
And we've laughed, cried, celebrated and mourned with people across the country and the world.
Even in lockdown, we've carried on, encouraging children and adults in their lives,
Tackling mental health, serving communities,
seeking climate justice, declaring that God's love is for all. We don't just exist in the world.
We are part of a global family, and while the future is uncertain,
We're excited for what's ahead.
And welcome to our annual Cliff College cooking show. I say annual, this is the first time we've done it, but that's okay. My name is Rachel and I'm your host for this morning, and over the next 2 days I'm going to be joined by some amazing guests. Some might be new to you, some you may have seen already this week, but I'm excited to have some delicious food, some amazing conversations. But don't worry, you guys can make this food at home as well. I think the recipes should be in the comments as we go, so we would love to see you guys getting involved, send in pictures, and maybe share them with friends and family. We would love to see you trying it out as well. Now, my husband, Joel, would definitely vouch for the fact that I'm not actually the best cook. I make a mess all the time and something usually goes wrong more often than not. So it's a bit ironic that I am hosting this cooking show today, but do not worry, I am not doing the cooking. I am joined today by my first guest, someone who knows his way around a lump of dough. That is Andy Beard. Andy, how are you?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm
Good,
excited for today. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we start with the
Yeah, so I came to Cliff as a student about 5 years ago.
Nice.
And then my wife is now the librarian, so and we've got a little one. He's 1 now, and so I'm a stay-at-home dad majority,
Oh,
apart
lovely.
from Fridays I work at a local cafe, but yeah.
Nice. So
Great.
what will we be making today?
So I thought, actually, we're just coming out of the kind of lockdown, kind of easing of rules and stuff. So
Yeah.
I thought, let's look forward in something we can share with people. So we're going to do
Nice.
tear and share tiger bread with a kind of cream cheese dip. So
Tiger bread is my
yeah.
favourite bread, so
yeah.
I'm so
Although,
excited
for
this.
today, it's going to have to be cut and share, just so that we make sure we're not, you know, really kind
Not
of, yeah.
touching,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So I'm so excited to see the finished product. Do you want to get cracking with,
Yeah,
with your
great, yeah.
bread? That's great. So it wouldn't be a very good cooking show if we didn't have an expert taste tester. So this brings me to my next guest, Holly Adams. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Rachel. I'm very well. I'm very happy to play the role of expert taste tester. It's like my dream come true.
So before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name's Holly. I work on the connectional team, the Methodist connectional team in the Evangelism and Growth team. And my role is all about equipping people for confident, authentic faith sharing.
Nice, that sounds so good. So you're definitely the right person for this job today. So this whole weekend is about community, and one of the most simple examples for community in my mind is being able to sit around a dinner table and share with friends in food. So guys, something I've really missed during lockdown is being able to sit with friends and family and sharing food. But now we can go into restaurants and we can do that with tables of 6. So I have a question for you both. Holly, I'll come to you first.
Yep.
Dead, alive, or fictional, if you could have 5 people at a dinner table, who would you pick and why?
Yeah, now you gave me a bit of warning that this question was coming. I'm really glad you did, because I've been thinking about it long and hard. So my first go-to guest, obviously, would be Paddington Bear. I mean, why wouldn't you want Paddington Bear at a dinner table? And also, he'd bring his own marmalade sandwiches, so, I mean, just cheap.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to cook.
Cheap date, Paddington Bear. And he'd be a barrel of laughs. So he'd be number one. My second one, Stephen Fry, because I just think, I mean, he'd be hilarious and wonderful and just lovely. But him and Paddington Bear would have great banter. Yeah. So that'd be two of them. And then Miranda, obviously Miranda Hart, she would also bring great banter. And I think those three together would just be the best combo.
Yeah, love that.
And then my next one's mixing it up a little bit. And I'd go for Esther, as in biblical
From the Bible.
Esther. Yeah, and I was thinking about what Bible character I'd have. I mean, obviously your mind goes to Jesus, but I thought, mix it up a bit. I'd like, you know, a female, empowered, sassy biblical woman. And Esther's obviously the queen of sass, so I think she'd be great. And then my last one, Emma Watson, because I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so I needed some representation from Harry Potter. And she's also got a lot of sass. You know, she's a feminist. I think she'd bring great conversation. So that's my 6.
I think that would be a very funny evening, definitely.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting evening.
Yeah. Emma Watson's definitely someone I would have on my table as well, I think. Andy.
Yes.
You look like you're busy.
Yeah, I'm just weighing out the water.
Oh, okay.
I always like to weigh out water because measuring it's never accurate enough in a jug.
Okay.
So it's always good to measure up, especially with bread dough, because it really matters. Because the hydration of your bread. So give me 1 second. There we go.
Okay, so coming to you, dead, alive or fictional, 5 people at your dinner table, who would you pick?
I found it really hard to choose, so I went for this kind of, like, I'll take one Bible character, one fictional character, and so on and so on. So my Bible character I chose was Elijah, because I'm someone who has and does suffer from mental health.
Yeah.
And I really like that Elijah is there in the Bible as and actually it quite clearly shows and portrays someone with mental health conditions at certain points. So that's inspirational for me to know that someone in the Bible can have mental health and just be amazing and be really looked up to. So that's really good. Like, I see you're Stephen Fry, and I'm going to raise you Jeeves. So basically, because if you see the rest of my list, he needs a little bit of light-hearted. I'm not sure. Do I want him at the dinner table, or should I have him serving? Because I'm not sure. But either way, he'll be there. Inspirational Christian. I went for Tyndale, who kind of was influential in translating the Bible into English. Figure from history, historical figure. As such, is a poet, so she's called Felicia Hemans. She's amazing in her own field. Her poetry is amazing, but she depicts kind of mental health and suicide amongst women, which is in the 19th century as well. So she's kind of, really pushing social norms there. That's really interesting. And then the kind of current figure would be Amy Lee, who's a kind of singer from the rock band Evanescence.
A real eclectic
it is really eclectic. But she's, again, really amazing in her field, but she's had to battle with lots of kind of prejudice in like a very male-dominated world. She's not just a singer, she's the front person and does it amazingly. So another inspirational woman for the list there that they could have some good conversations. Might not be quite so light-hearted as yours.
Yeah, I feel like there's a big difference between the two groups there.
A bit too far on the comedy side, maybe, but
that's good. Good mix up.
You'd have some great conversations there and great debates there. I love that.
You'd be feeling super inspired and empowered by the end of your dinner party.
So, Andy, I've heard over lockdown that you and your local community got up to some pretty cool things. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I wasn't organising it at all. It was just purely like something I got involved with the baking side. So a local Anglican church in the village of Baslow got together with another church in Eyam, and they kind of put on like Saturday markets kind of for the community, kind of built a bit of community around kind of food, because baking, but around, and like other books and all sorts of things they had there.
Nice.
So that was really good, and I baked bread and Chelsea buns and stuff like that for it, which was great. But what they also did was sold bags of flour, because it was a time it was really hard to get flour.
Yeah, everyone was making banana bread, weren't they? So there was just no flour anywhere.
And sourdough.
Yes.
That was really useful for the community. But the money, and then they sold about 800 bags.
Oh wow!
So
That's a
it was
lot,
really
yeah.
big. They bought it wholesale and packed it down. So it was a real kind of achievement. But the money went to food banks in Sheffield. So it was kind of like a redistribution
Perfect.
of wealth.
Yeah.
This is quite an affluent area.
Yeah.
And they were serving their community, but not forsaking those that were in more need.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. So
Absolutely.
I was really inspired by that,
Yeah.
especially as a small church. This is not like a big city church.
Yeah.
It's a very small church, just filled with people that want to get on with evangelism and mission.
Yeah, small church making a massive impact. That's amazing. This kind of community action is an amazing example of churches coming together at a time of need. Now, Holly, you mentioned that you work a lot with like evangelism and local churches. So how have you seen community like being a part of evangelism today?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is such a brilliant example in itself. Andy's story is just great because it's churches responding to a need, seeing where they can make an impact, and just generally being good news people in their community, like building community, building relationships, and being people of good news in those places. Wow.
There's a lot going on over here. We'll come to that in a minute.
That looks amazing. So in evangelism, obviously we're called to share our faith in all kinds of different ways, in the ways we pray for one another, in the ways we pray for our community, in the ways that we speak of our faith, but also, of course, in the way that we live our lives. So we're called to be good news people in our community, and I think that's a great example of it.
Yeah. Andy, what is going on here?
So this is a very wet dough. So the only way to knead it is, you can use a machine if you've got a decent like food processor at home, like with a dough hook, you can do that. But you can't knead it in a traditional way because it's just too sticky.
Okay. Is that why you're doing like this weird flingy thing?
Yeah, so I think it's called a stretch, slap and fold. But I tend to do a stretch, fold and slap, but it's the same thing. So you can see at the moment it just comes apart.
Yeah.
So
Looks very sticky.
So the kneading will increase elasticity, so it will shrink back, but it also extensibility, so it will be able to stretch without breaking, which is what gives it the bread its structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this because it's a metaphor for what it's like to do community outreach. So, yeast in dough, making a big difference, building the kingdom of God. And like
growing culture.
Yeah, exactly. Being good news people, being that little yeast that makes a big difference in dough. We've made an amazing connection here between the gospel and bread.
7 grams of yeast, it's not much.
Exactly, that tiny amount.
Yeah.
So that's all it takes to be good news people, to share your faith. Just a few acts of faithful, prayerful.
And it's multiplication as well, because the yeast culture grows. So it's not like it's just, as it feeds on the flours and the sugars, it actually grows itself because it's a live culture.
I love that. It's almost like Jesus knew what he was talking about when he talked about the parable of the yeast.
You can see already it's starting to stretch more without breaking. So.
Love it.
It's like watching transformation happen before your eyes. It's great.
Yeah, sorry about the noise.
So, Holly, have you got any other examples of churches coming together?
Yeah, I mean, one brilliant thing about my job is that, because working on the Connectional team, you hear all these great stories from churches all over the Connection. I feel like I'm sometimes a bit of a sponge, like I just soak up all these good news stories. And people send stuff in, it's great to hear. So especially over the pandemic, it's been amazing hearing stories of people reaching out to their communities, being a blessing, giving people, on estates, doing things like outreach, giving out bags of food and reaching out to people that are vulnerable and lonely. It's been amazing hearing those stories, yeah. That's
so cool. I know my church, we put up this big forget-me-not wall and encourage people from the local community to write down members of their family or friends that had died during the pandemic. And it was just a really nice way to bring the community together in something that was so difficult.
Yeah. And again, that's the church seeing where the need is and responding to it. Actually creating the space that the community needs, and that's what the church can be and can do. It's amazing. Yeah.
Speaking of needing, are you still needing here?
I still am. Got a few minutes, but it's definitely starting to come together more. You can see it kind of stretching more.
So are you looking to be able to see is it the window pane trick? Is that?
Yeah, that's not.
Or is that not for this?
You don't tend to need it that far.
Oh, okay.
You're very hard to need it that far by hand.
Right, okay.
But with a machine you can.
Yeah.
But you can see as you stretch it, it kind of goes back together. So the elasticity of the gluten is just kicking in. So.
Nice.
We're obviously not quite at the bake-off kitchen standard because we haven't got one of those fancy machines that does it for you.
Got one at home, but I decided it's actually a really interesting way. I really like kneading. in preparation for this, I needed about 1.5 kilograms of dough yesterday, and it's a good kitchen workout. You can't get a better kitchen workout
I feel like
than kneading bread.
If you're angry and you need to relieve some stress, this is the way to do it, definitely.
But I'm quite glad I'm not doing the traditional one, because I had my jab the other day.
Oh, gosh. Your arm's still
so
dead.
pushing is going to be hard. This is fine.
OK, so obviously there are some elements of community that we've missed during lockdown, Andy.
Yeah.
Has there been any particularly for you?
Yeah, I think the thing for me is hospitality. I've missed hospitality a lot. Yeah, so me and my wife, our mantra really of our kind of relationship and marriage, we're married 10 years now, so we're nearly 11.
Wow.
So it's been for a long time, open homes, open lives and an open Bible.
I love that, that's so good.
Yeah, so hospitality is obviously a major part of that, open homes. It was a real challenge to try and do it in lockdown, but yeah, so I've missed that a lot. But actually, it was a thing when I was a youth worker before I came here as a student at a church in Cambridge, and the thing that changed our ministry most was letting the young people come into our home, inviting them in and letting them and serving them, but also letting them serve us.
Yeah.
So you know, they painted our house with us.
Oh, wow.
And we got them involved in actually being hospitable to us and their peers.
Yeah.
Because actually that makes them feel at home.
Definitely.
And actually that's builds much more community with them than just giving them everything they need. So you know, they cooked for us sometimes. We did. They did drinks and whatever. So it's really good.
Nice.
I love that, because I think so often as the church and as Christians, we think we've got to be the ones providing for, we've got to be the ones that are being hospitable, we've always got to be serving people. Whereas actually, like Jesus shows us in the Gospels that that's not the case at all. We can be served by people, and it's empowering for others, and it builds mutual relationships. So like, if you think of Jesus with the woman at the well in John 4, he shows up, he's exhausted from his journey, he's thirsty, and at the beginning of this amazing evangelistic encounter, he says to her, "Give me a drink." So he is served by her, and I think in evangelism that's a really important place to start, is in that kind of mutual relationship, in like a relationship that doesn't depend on one person always being the provider, but on giving and receiving. I think that's really an important part of community.
Yeah, but so it's not just about doing it, it's allowing others to serve you.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
Yeah.
Earlier you talked about how eating and evangelism go together. Can you just go into that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, being around a table sharing food really builds community, and one of my favourite kind of acronyms for mission and evangelism is BLESS. So when you are engaging in mission, engaging community outreach, you need to remember to bless, be with, listen to, eat with, serve and share your story. So eating with is obviously a really key part of the way that you build community with people and the way that you make relationships. And it's not until you've got those relationships that you can even think about sharing your story. So you need that foundation of like eating together, being with one another, listening to one another, and then you can bring evangelism in, then you can share your story. Then people will be interested in why you're a Christian, in your faith, in hearing about your faith.
Love that. Andy, earlier you mentioned something about Zoom dinners before we started this.
So that was a big, because it's great. I love hospitality and I love being able to share a meal together.
Yeah.
But it's been really hard during lockdown.
Definitely.
So one thing we've done occasionally is to do Zoom dinner parties, I guess. So you send a recipe out to people, and then they cook it as well. And you just sit around a table kind of together. It's as close as you can get to kind of hospitality and dinner. One of you chooses the recipe, and it kind of that was really good.
Love that.
Wish we'd done it more, but
I know that's something like I missed. So I go to a home group and we'd always eat together beforehand, and that's something I really, really missed during lockdown.
Yeah.
But go on.
We've had to find all these like creative ways, haven't we, to like build community to carry on doing that stuff. It's so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is my first time at Cliff. I've never been here before, and so I didn't really know that many people around here. But just being able to eat together at lunchtime and dinner time and chat to one another, it's been so lovely. And I feel like I've got to know each other so much better, and it's just it's really nice. So like you were saying, having that opportunity to get to know each other first then gives you, it opens those doors, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you can have those deeper conversations. Yeah. There's a lot of flour going on over there.
Andy, what is going on?
So I've kneaded my dough now. This is one that's been risen overnight in the fridge.
Okay.
So you can do it for an hour in a warm place, but so I don't have to get up like ridiculously this morning. I did it overnight in the fridge. So it's now it's very soft and very stretchy, and then you put it down and it all kind of comes back in together again. So that's nice and risen. It's had its gluten. So now I'm going to weigh out into eight equal sections and shape them.
Make sure no one gets like the bigger piece.
Yeah. So you shape them. You can shape in your hand. And I'm using oil to knead and on the table because it's a wet dough rather than flour because it dries it out. And if you keep adding flour and more flour, you can add water and stuff, but you haven't added any extra yeast or anything else. So it keeps the balance right. So you're using oil on your.
Does that help it brown as well when it cooks? Or is
no, it helps it go soft, keep soft.
Okay.
Because it's in the dough, because there's a lot of oil in the dough as well.
Right.
And it helps it keep soft, and just nice to work with as well. So,
nice.
yeah.
Have you got any other top tips? I feel like that's a great tip.
A dough scraper.
Oh.
Anyone who does anything to do with bread or dough needs a dough scraper. I mean, you can clear up the flour in like 2 seconds.
I need one of those.
Scrape dough off the table. You can use it if you've got a really wet dough. You can use it to knead.
Get this guy on Bake Off. He's so professional right now.
So that's it's cheap as well. So it's not like it's an expensive thing.
Yeah.
See, if I was doing this, there would be flour absolutely everywhere. It'd be all stuck to my hands. I would just be making an absolute mess.
Yeah, I do normally as well.
I'm very glad
being
that
very
I don't
careful.
have to be over there doing anything practical.
So, Holly, have you got any other kind of examples or things you want to say about community and evangelism?
I mean, I could talk about evangelism all day, which is lucky because it's my job. But I was just thinking about bread and thinking about how Jesus on the road to Emmaus. That's an amazing evangelism story, really, because Jesus opens the scriptures to the disciples that are journeying on the road to Emmaus, and Jesus is revealed to them in the breaking of the bread.
Yeah.
And I think so often in evangelism we think we have to kind of be Jesus. We have to show people, explain to people in absolute detail what faith means, when actually all we have to do is point to Jesus. We have to invite people into an encounter, because it's only an experience with the living God that will change people's hearts and minds and souls.
Yeah.
It's only an experience with the living God that will lead to transformation. We can't do that as evangelists or as Christians. We can just point to Jesus and invite people into encounter, and that's what happens on the road to Emmaus. That breaking of the bread moment, Jesus is revealed to them in an amazing encounter. And then they rush back to Jerusalem, the place where they've just left, to tell all their friends about Jesus. And that's what happens in evangelism when it goes well. We're just overflowing with good news. So that's what I was just thinking about watching that bread and thinking how it's about revelation, about pointing to Jesus. It's about encounter. Yeah.
Who knew that there are so many links between Jesus and bread and
evangelism?
Yeah, evangelism. It's great.
It's quite common though in the Bible, isn't it? Bread is like a staple of the kind of Christian metaphors and just experiences in the kind of first century and in the Old Testament as well.
I'm sure if any of us were theologians or ordained ministers, we'd probably have more to say about sacrament and all of that stuff, but we're not there.
No, not get into that today.
Apologies to anyone that's expecting that kind of content.
So, Andy, you're doing some weird little foldy thing, aren't you? With these?
Yeah, so I'm just shaping them into the kind of rolls, so you can see on there at all. But it's shaped into small rolls. But another really important part of creating structure is to stretch and fold again. So it's like the kneading, but you're actually using that to shape your dough. So it's going to stretch and fold, and you keep going around in circles until you have a round. So it does two things. It's creating a round, roll shape, but it's also giving it lots of structure, which will really help get a really nice kind of dough and a nice kind of bread texture when it's
And then what is this little plate for in
the middle?
Well,
because we're doing the dip in the middle, I'm using that as a way to not stop it going too far, so I can still fit the making in the middle.
Ah, okay. So they don't all merge together.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
And also, I'm going to prove it. So it has a second prove, and you do it in a plastic bag.
Right.
So you cover it over the plastic bag, and so you can have a glass in there, which helps the plastic bag not to kind of sag down onto the, because these get very sticky again, and it'll ruin it. Because as soon as you start, once you start rising, you start disturbing the dough at all, it's going to sink. So yeah.
It's an exact science, isn't it?
It is,
bread making stuff.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're doing it and not me.
I have to say, I've only ever made bread once in my life, and I left it to prove, and I thought, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I thought, I just need to go to a church meeting. So I popped out to a church meeting that I thought was going to take half an hour. Came back like 4 hours later, and the bread was a disaster.
Oh, no.
And now I just blame, church meetings that go on forever. So.
Yeah. You can rescue it if it's the first rise, because it has a first proof, which is the one I did overnight. You can rescue that, just to knock it back loads, which means knocking all the air out, really banging it back.
Okay.
But the second proof has to be done like well, because you're not going to touch it. That's what you're going to do. And in fact, if I have done that, if I have made a mistake before, I do knock it back again and do a third rise.
See, I needed you on hand, Andy, with that kind of advice.
Like, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
So the dough I made last night in the fridge this morning was well overimproved.
It had a big bubble.
It had a big bubble, didn't it? Which is not ideal, but you can work with it. So you just.
Well, Andy, I think we should have like a little bit of a Blue Peter moment, if that's all right, because we're coming to the end of our time now.
Yeah. So just stick this one down, and then cool. So yeah, I'm just putting those kind of like about 2 centimetres apart, so they really expand into each other.
Oh, I see. So when they bake.
Then you've got your tear and share.
And you tear off.
So if you get them too close now, they're going to like go into it just so much, you're not really going to cook it properly. So So
here's one he made
here's
earlier.
What we're going to be enjoying.
Classic Blue Peter moment.
Yeah.
That looks
look
so
at
good,
that.
and it smells amazing. I'm so excited to try this. So you made a dip as well.
No, I haven't made a dip.
Oh, you've not made the dip?
No, I actually bought the dip.
Oh, sorry.
Because I had too much to do with
making bread for the last
making the
48
bread.
hours.
But it's a cream cheese dip of a certain brand that I'm not sure if I should mention.
Okay.
Other brands are available.
Yeah.
What are you chopping up here?
Some chives, just to
just to go in. Super fancy here.
It's from our garden, and they're in flower at the moment, so we get flower as well.
So nice.
Start your chives.
I love this. Okay, shall we come over to the table and sit down and get ready to eat together?
Yeah. I definitely got the best deal here. All I had to do was sit and chat.
Sit and look pretty. Chat, yes.
See, I'm practicing what we preach, and I'm being served rather than serving.
Exactly. I love that. Oh, goodness, it smells amazing. So, guys, if you have made this at home or you are going to make it, I would really encourage you guys to go out and share this with friends or family, or maybe even go to your neighbour. I think it would be an incredible way to build up those communities in your streets and around with your friends. You could all eat outside in a group of 30 and share this meal together, although you might need a bit more bread than just the 8 pieces here. But yeah, definitely send us photos and let us know how you have got on. Are you as professional as Andy here, or did things go a little bit awry? But I think it's time for us to get stuck in. So Andy,
break bread together.
Break bread together. Oh, love that.
I'll cut them out so we're not having to.
Yeah.
So you just touch your own one.
Oh gosh, there we go.
Yeah, I'll go for that one.
Wow, this looks amazing.
Listen to the crunch.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Nice, So water in the bottom of the oven when you're cooking gives you a nice crust.
Nice.
So, I got a good litre and a bit of water as you're cooking it. Gives you a nice crust. So
it looks so professional, Andy.
You seriously need to enter the Bake Off.
Yeah,
I think
you
this
should.
is.
We're going to see you on Bake Off.
You'd get a handshake from Paul right there. I think.
Yeah, but I'm only good at bread, you see. That's the problem.
Oh, it's good.
How jealous are you guys? Because this is incredible.
But yeah, I think bread is a really important part of kind of eating.
Absolutely.
So many meals you can share with people can revolve around bread, stews, soups, like really good full meals revolve around bread. So
there's something really hearty about it, and yeah, it's delicious.
So before I get too stuck into this loaf of bread, we're going to say goodbye. I will be back tomorrow with 2 more guests, and we will be baking brownies, I think. So I will see you then. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Andy and Holly. We will see you then. Goodbye.